Hello again, Coffee Chat friend. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I wanted to and I want to still, keep the right tense, eh? A little bit about what could be holding us back, right? I mean, if you think about it, when we want to improve the quality of our life or improve anything, if there's something holding us back, then surely it's important to address that or to have a look at it and find out what it might be. Sometimes it's as simple as darn things, and it's usually inside here somewhere or inside here somewhere. It's inside anyways, it seems to be. Well, I know it's a rather overworn, overused quote, but it goes something like this. I think it was Einstein who once said it, and anything coming from Einstein usually seems to have the ring of quite a bit of wisdom to it. It goes something like, it's the definition of insanity to believe that somehow we can solve a problem with the same thinking that we got ourselves into the problem with. That's pretty, most people have heard that sort of thing. It makes a lot of sense, right? If we keep on going on this road and we're trying to go there, then at a certain point we got to wake up and say, well, there's no connected road going back that way, so we better, turn around and come back. Do something different, in other words. Now, one of the hardest things for us to do, though, in times, especially when we're talking about our gamble or our investment or what we've put into something already. Sometimes we put many years into a certain path. And we're going like, no, we gotta get this to work somehow. But if it's fundamentally wrong, or it's fundamentally not taking us to where we want to go, then at a certain point, I would say, here's one of the things, this might be the biggest thing, and one of the biggest things that holds us back is we have to admit that what we're doing is wrong, or our thinking is wrong, or our thinking is flawed, or what we're doing is flawed. We have to admit it at a certain point. That's my impression anyways, my experience. A lot of times I got to admit that what I'm doing is bogus. And I was recently watching a video by a guy named, a YouTube guy, he calls himself Aaron Raw, I think, something like that. He's a long-haired guy anyway, and he talks a lot about the scientific method versus creationism or mythology or what have you. And he's very much of a skeptic, of a free thinker. I like that, because he doesn't accept things unless he can prove them, or he doesn't accept something somebody else is saying unless they can prove it. So it's kind of a good approach to take, because for ourselves even, because if we're doing something, we're not getting the results, do we really have any evidence that it gets results? Why we continue to do it? So it's an important observation. Anyways, I was watching this video, and he had this one screen up, and it was a picture of a cartoon. And on one side of the cartoon it said, there was people talking to each other, and it says, here are the facts. What conclusions can we draw from them? So 2 sentences. Here are the facts. What conclusions can we draw from them? On the other side of the spectrum was the following saying, here's the conclusion. What facts can we find to support it? Interesting, isn't it? Completely opposite, in other words. But so often, isn't it the case where, especially in regards to our religions, our legal systems, governments, our sophistry, and all of this sort of thing, we jump to conclusions, right? We jump to conclusions about ourselves. We jump to conclusions about where we're going in our project. We jump to conclusions about other people. And this is flawed thinking, I would say, in my opinion, because we haven't applied any kind of a systematic process to the arriving at these conclusions. One of the reasons I like the scientific method, even though I don't really know the details of a lot of scientific method, but at least the overall concept is that we're going to apply a system to the arrival of our conclusions. And if it doesn't check out, then we're maybe not going to accept it. We're going to accept the ones that consistently check out with our systematic rigor. And this way, well, part of that system is going to be the continual admission, whenever there is error in our thinking, that there's error in our thinking, or there's error in our process. So when we're driving down that road the wrong direction, we're not going to be driving down that road for very long, and not going to become invested in it that heavily, to the point where we're going to realize by looking at our maps and so on, well, this is the wrong direction. And there's no connector roads going over to the right road, so we better just turn around and go back before we get too down that road, rather than just saying to ourselves, nope, this is the right direction, and I'm going to prove it. See? I'm going to jump to a conclusion, and then I'm going to search for the facts that support that conclusion, rather than looking at the fact that here we have a map, and a fact being, of course, the nearest thing that we can get to any sort of evidence, right? But here is a map. It was probably constructed by people who are surveyors and map producers and so on. This is showing that it's going in the wrong direction. Our compass is showing that we're going in the wrong direction. Our GPS is showing that we're going in the wrong direction. And there's no roads that connect over to the other road. So based on all of the facts, here are the facts. What conclusion can we draw? Well, the conclusion that we can draw is that if we keep going in this direction, we're going to become more flawed. So the best thing to do is to turn around and go back to the correct road. Backtrack, take the right road. It's a hard thing to do. I think we all, or it can be a very hard thing to do, because we can become steeped in our religiosity, our superstitions, our governmental systems. It's amazing to me, because I talk to people and even think back to myself and catch myself at times. People, including myself, who would say, well, I'm not religious, and yet then talk about the government as though it exists, as though it has legitimacy, as though there is such a thing as a citizen. As we'll look at somebody and say, well, yeah, that guy over there is a Canadian citizen. Is that true? Is that not, here's my conclusion? He is? That's my conclusion? Now what are the facts to support it? Well, he lives on this map, within this map here. And his mother gave birth to him here. Therefore he is. That's a fact. Did he say so? Did you see any documentation? And of course the question is, what is a citizen? Can you derive, can you make a positive conclusion based on looking at him? There might be two guys standing side by side. You can say one is a Canadian citizen. They both are about 6 foot tall. One has brown hair, one has black hair, one has darker skin than the other. One laughs more than the other. One speaks English, one speaks French. One speaks 10 different languages. One speaks sign language. So from all of that, how can you conclude that somebody is a Canadian? You can't, right? You can't, because it's like a religious belief, right? It's like saying, even though this concept of God I can't completely figure out, but now I'm going to tell you what it is, right? Nobody can tell you for sure what a citizen is, but I can tell you that that guy is one. It's like jumping to the conclusion and then supporting it. And the support of it is, there's never any support of it. There's never any support for constructs that are fallacious, that are not based in anything foundational, anything provable. So that's the challenge, isn't it? The challenge is to admit that we might be wrong, and then to be able to consistently use a system where we look at what we do know, or what we possibly can know, what we can learn, and then ask how we can come to some conclusion based on this, rather than saying, I already know the conclusion, but I don't need to know anything else. Or if I'm challenged with it, then I'll search for the facts, but I don't need to bother with it for now, because I already know I'm correct. And we've all known people like this. We've all been like this probably at times. And I don't know, in terms of improving the quality of our life experience, I don't know about you, but for me, I like to be on the side of always being open to what is more truthful. Always being open to what is more truthful, what is more correct, what is the most efficient way of getting to my path. If I'm going to blindly go down that road when I actually want to go over there, then my quality of life experience in being there is never going to happen because I'm going that way. But if I'm open to ideas and open to admitting that I'm wrong in going that way, turn around, come back and go there, then I can have the quality of life experience of having arrived at where I wanted to go. Just a simple analogy, I know, but it probably can be applied to many things in our lives. Once again, it was great chatting with you today. I just wanted to share my thoughts on what I felt was one of the greatest challenges that we have to get beyond in our lives at times when we want to go forward in the directions we want to go, which is that tendency to not want to admit that our process, our way, our beliefs and so on are false or even just ineffective for what it is we're trying to do. Sometimes we get so invested in what it is, or so gambled, if you will, so entrenched in the way we think we are, we think our culture is, our nation, all this, or religion, all this sort of thing. We get so wrapped up in it all that we don't want to be a little bit scientific and say, okay, in order for me to go forward here, I have to lay all of that aside and start fresh. Be objective. If I'm not prepared to leave something aside, which might be fallacious, then I'm not actually being objective. I'm coming at it from a position of preconceived notions. And I don't think that's helpful to actually admit complete admission that just maybe I'm wrong. So I want to share it, and it's always a great opportunity to chat. I want to say it's great for those who do watch, who chime in, who send me emails and stuff like that, and enjoy the conversation to some extent. It's always great to hear those comments. Keep them coming. Bye-bye for now. My name is Steve, and we'll talk again soon. I just wanted to, before I close this off, though, just show you this trail that I'm on. I just walked up on this trail here, and if you look, it overlooks this valley. It doesn't really show it to a real great extent here, but there's a huge drop-off here, probably, I don't know, 500-600 feet down to a park down below. It's really cool anyway. All right, talk to you later.